When looking around trying to figure out where to open your stocks and shares ISA, just like in life, with anything, you've got some decisions to make. Lucky for you, you've already made it past 95% of Brits who don't even have a stocks and shares ISA. So firstly, give yourself a pat on the back. You've made it this far, well done. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. In this video, I'm going to try and take a look at some of the most popular platforms out there that you can potentially invest your hard-earned money. I'll look at the pros, the cons, most importantly, I'll look at the fees and the charges, and then hopefully try and work out where's best to put your money and open up a stocks and shares ISA. If you weren't already familiar, we're not going to go into the details of what a stocks and shares ISA is, but effectively every adult in the UK aged 18 or over gets to invest up to £20,000 annually completely tax-free. And if you didn't already know, that should be your first port of call for investing. It's a complete no-brainer, so make sure you do all of your own research, have a look into it, and if you want any more further details, I have done a video looking briefly at what a stocks and shares ISA is, and there's some great information out there, especially on the government website as well. For now though, I'll presume you know some of the basics so we can get straight into the video. Firstly though, let's just address a couple of things up front. Number one, I haven't managed to get around to every single company that offers a stocks and shares ISA because we'd pretty much be here forever. We'd literally be here for days, and we haven't got no time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I've excluded all the major banks who do offer a stocks and shares ISA on the side, but to be honest, you can do better than that. They cost a fortune, they don't really care about you, so it's best to focus on some other platforms out there that offer a slightly better service and of course lower fees too. Secondly, I'm not going to touch on the so-called robo-investors out there like Moneybox, Wealthify and Nutmeg, not because I have anything against those companies, and actually quite the opposite. Anything that gets people to invest in a stocks and shares ISA and gets people investing generally, for me is a massive positive thing. However, these platforms, if you weren't already familiar, of course are a more set and forget, choose to invest in them, and their fees tend to be slightly higher too, because of course they're taking away that pain of choosing funds and choosing shares. But in my opinion, I think the average investor, armed with just a little bit of knowledge, is more than capable to take care and manage their own investments, create their own investment platform, and in fact will get them more excited and more ingrained into investing generally, so they actually understand what they're doing. Because I think part of my journey and part of my own quest is really to try and demystify the whole black box of investing, and I think genuinely that anyone can do it and everyone should be doing it anyway. Finally, remember that I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a random guy on the internet, and even if I was a qualified financial advisor, this still couldn't be given as financial advice, so please do your own research. This is just my opinion, this is just for educational purposes only. If you do need professional financial advice, please seek it out for someone qualified and pay them for their time if you want. Right, so now's the time to have a look at which companies I have actually chosen, and we're going to run through each of them. We'll briefly talk about them as a company, we'll go through some of the pros and cons, we'll look at the fees and charges, look at how we interact with them, and then at the end I'll kind of decide and give you a couple of recommendations of what I would do if I was in your position. So in no particular order for this video, here are the platforms I'm going to be looking at for you. We'll be looking at Vanguard, Interactive Investor, Trading 212, Free Trade and Hargreaves Lansdown. As I've mentioned, the biggest focus here, and one thing I think is the most important really for long-term investing, are those fees and charges, where they get you, what the ones are up front, what charges we're going to face in the long term, because genuinely these are the most important things you need to look at here. Regardless of how flashy a platform is, concentrate on those fees and charges. I'm going to try and put myself in the position of just a beginner, a starter investor. I'm not really worried about killer features or a killer fund, for example, that you might not be able to invest in on some of these platforms. If that's what you need, then you'll happily pay whatever cost you need. But for the time being, I'm trying to put myself in the mind of an average investor who wants to get started and really just wants that long-term growth with as little to worry about as possible. So firstly, let's take a look at Vanguard. If Vanguard was an animal in this group, it would be a blue whale. It would be an absolute monster, gracefully going around the oceans, eating up everything in its path. In the world of investing in mutual funds, Vanguard absolutely dominate. They're the largest provider of mutual funds in the world and the second largest only for ETFs, and under management in total, they've got over $7 trillion. We've actually got the founder of Vanguard, John Bogle, to thank for all of this lovely index fund and low cost investing, because if it wasn't for him and wasn't for Vanguard, we'd probably be paying very high expensive brokerage fees and we'd still be paying loads for actively managed funds. Index fund and mutual fund investing has absolutely boomed since Vanguard has come into play, with more money moving into this space than ever before. And it's for good reason too. Mutual fund and index funds, especially low cost index fund, have outbeaten the market 90% of the time, and that's over a long period of time, around 20 years, where the active fund managers just don't stand a chance, I'm afraid. To open up a stocks and shares ISA on Vanguard is super simple. It's all driven from their website. Unfortunately, there's no app in the UK. The guys over in the States have got one, but we can't be trusted apparently. Now let's look at the cost of the platform. So just a quick note here to remember that Vanguard is a mutual fund provider. So they don't actually have access to individual stocks and shares. So you won't be investing in Amazon, Microsoft and Google directly here. You'll only be investing in a fund here, which might have Amazon, Apple or Google within inside it, but you'll just be choosing funds. Remember, really simply, a fund is just a collection of companies all pre-made, ready for you in a basket to take to the checkout. They've got a huge selection of funds, everything from UK stocks, US stocks, global and emerging markets, and they also offer their own life strategy funds too, which I did a video about recently, which is a mixture of stocks and bonds, depending on where you are in life. If you're a little bit older and a little bit more cautious, you might go for more bonds, for example, and if you want 100% equities and just go in stocks and shares, and you're a bit younger, then this might be the one for you. With Vanguard, you can either go lump sums or monthly payments. If you want to do a lump sum, you'll need to save up £500, otherwise it's £100 minimum per month to invest into most of their funds, which is actually pretty low cost when you compare that to the rest of the market and a good place to start. In terms of costs and fees, Vanguard are known for driving down costs and driving down fees like nothing you've ever seen before. In fact, if anything, over time, Vanguard's fees have gone down rather than going up. It's a crazy old world out there, I know. So you're going to have two things to look out for here with Vanguard. Firstly, you're going to have your overall account fee, which is 0.15%. On a positive note, the 0.15% is capped at £375 a year. So once you cross the £250,000 investment line, then your fees every year are only going to be £375 to manage your account. On top of that, the only other costs we're going to have to worry about are the ongoing costs, depending on the individual funds that you go into. For example, if we choose their S&P 500 index fund, we're looking at an ongoing cost of 0.07%, which is extremely low. So if we combine 0.15 with 0.07, we get to 0.22% as our overall account management fee. So let's run for a really quick example, and I'll do this with every single provider. Let's say we've invested £20,000 into our stocks and shares ISA. We've completely maxed it out. What is our cost going to be? What are the fees going to be for that whole 12-month period? Well, with Vanguard, for example, if we take the 0.15% account fee, and if we pretend that we've invested in an S&P 500 index fund, our total fees will be 0.22%, which means that for the entire year, our charges are £44. So that's around £3.60 a month, or a caramel latte from Costa. Up to you. Next up, again in no particular order, is Interactive Investor. Certainly a much smaller company, but headquartered here in the UK, not too far away from me up here in Manchester. They've got around £50 billion currently under management, and you can trade on their platform both through their website and through their mobile app as well. Unlike Vanguard, they're a more traditional brokerage, which means they have access to lots of different stocks and shares, ETFs, bonds, etc. So you're not just stuck with a select number of funds, you've got almost completely the whole market to choose from. With Interactive Investor, and the reason I've included them in the list is that rather than having a percentage-based fee, their accounts are based on a fixed fee. So their lowest cost entry point to open up a stocks and shares ISA is using their investor fee, which is £9.99 a month, which gives you access to that. Also included in that £9.99 fee is a single trade per month, completely free too, which is good so you avoid their £7.99 trading fee. So for example, if you were to open up a stocks and shares ISA, you'd pay £10 every month, and then just have that one fee to make that trade. For example, that might be into an ETF, which tracks a low cost index, for example. And then of course you have the ongoing cost from there to worry about. So although £9.99 a month might seem quite expensive, the reason I've included it here is if your investments were to scale to something quite significant, for example, then actually you'd only have to pay £120 a year versus the £375 a year on some of the other platforms. Just like any other decision, any other investment decision, you need to do your own research and make sure you fully understand what you're getting yourself into on this one. And on their website, they do reference that some of the traditional brokers, they will beat them and give you back tens of thousands of pounds over that 30-year period. And they compare themselves against the likes of AJ Bell and Hargreaves Lansdown, claiming to be better off in the long term with that fixed fee. So again, let's take this example. Our £20,000 investment here into a stocks and shares ISA will cost us a slightly hefty £120 fee, but we will get one free trade per month. And then as our portfolio scales, we may be better off, but that's your decision. Next up, Trading 212. Now, unfortunately, until these guys start to open up new accounts for people based in the UK, we can't say much more here. These guys absolutely boomed throughout 2020, and they've been around since 2013, and their platform has grown and grown and grown to the point where they couldn't actually accept any new customers. Now, they are starting to take EU customers at the moment, so we should see that over the next few months that UK customers start to be allowed to open up accounts again, because actually, to be fair to these guys, they have kind of disrupted this space and made trading a lot more accessible and lower cost too. Because in fact, with Trading 212, there's absolutely absolutely no fees whatsoever to open up a stocks and shares ISA. It's completely free, well, at least up front. Of course, they are making their money somewhere, so bear in mind that they are making money from the spread, which is the difference between the buy and the sell price you might be offered. So you might not be getting the absolute best price possible for your stocks and shares. And also another thing to look out for is those pesky FX fees. So if you are buying lots of American shares, for example, or shares in euros, look out for these. But on the whole, Trading 212 did offer, until they open up new accounts, a completely free way to get stocks and shares ISA set up. So we have to give them props for that, but if you can't access a service and a service crumbles under user demand, then this pink logoed commission-free trading platform is very similar to Trading 212 in the way that they've tried to come in and disrupt the whole retail share buying platform. Everything with free trade is done on their app. In fact, their website really is just telling you, go and download the app. Very, very simple to use, aimed at those kind of first-time beginner investors to get you started and make life as easy as possible. For standard stocks and shares on free trade, the clue is kind of in the name in that it's completely free. So there's no stamp duty to pay on UK shares, and they actually absorb this cost themselves. And again, they'll be making money on that spread, so just be aware of that. But overall, you could build up a completely free platform of stocks and shares and ETFs, and it's completely free to you with no ongoing costs. They do have a wide selection to choose from, but if you do want access to some specialist funds and specialist areas, you will have to pay for what they call Free Trade Plus, which is £9.99 a month. And then if you do want to open a stocks and shares ISA, just be aware there is a fixed cost for this. Their stocks and shares ISA is a £3 fee per month. So again, unlike some of the other platforms, rather than choosing a percentage fee, Free Trade have gone with a fixed fee per month, so that works out at £36 per year. Again, fixed fees can be really useful because as your portfolio grows, your fees are actually staying the same, and then your fees work out at a smaller percentage, if that makes sense. Remember, any other fees will depend on what's inside your investment. So if you're in your stocks and shares investment, you're buying different ETFs or different kinds of funds, you'll need to look at the ongoing management costs there. But if you did fill up your stocks and shares ISA with your own stock choices and your own stock picks, potentially you could have just that £3 a month fee to pay, which actually makes it the lowest cost platform in this list so far. And finally, let's take that example of that £20,000 a year invested in a stocks and shares ISA with free trade. We'd be looking at £3 a month, so that's £36 our flat fee, and the only other ongoing costs we're going to have there are going to be the ones that we've chosen by the funds we've invested in if we've gone down that route. So a pretty impressive, simple platform to use. And finally, last but not least, Hargreaves Lansdown. So this is a company which has been going for a really long time, and these guys are actually publicly listed here in the UK, floated on the stock market themselves, so you can actually buy and sell shares in Hargreaves Lansdown themselves as well. They're actually the largest broker here in the UK and claim to have over 1 million accounts on their platform. Similar to other platforms, they've got a great user-friendly website and mobile phone app, and I actually use both myself as well, so hands up on that one. They offer stocks and shares dealing, SIP accounts, and also then stocks and shares ISAs too, all different separate accounts within inside the Hargreaves Lansdown platform. Rather than having any fixed fees, Hargreaves Lansdown very much is based on percentages. So their account fee overall is 0.45%. So this is the annual amount you'll be paid depending on how much your portfolio grows. And that is a tiered rate. Tiered at least when we're talking about funds. If you're talking about stocks though, it is actually capped. So the account fee for stocks is actually capped at £45 a year. However, investing in funds will incur a slightly sliding scale, so it's not as attractive, but still it does go down the more money you have in your account. For example, the 0.45% fee is up to £250,000 value in your account, and then it drops down to 0.25% for anything above £1 million. And then of course, if you're lucky enough to have £2 million, well, they'll be very kind and only charge you for the bottom 2 million. They won't charge you anything extra on top. They've got a wide access to all your stocks and funds and bonds that you can imagine, with lots of popular ones on there, so you'll pretty much find everything you could need. I personally find the platform very simple and easy to use. Probably not as simple as some of the new disruptors, but easy enough for me to figure out who you want to do, who you want to buy, and then pretty much set and forget. Most funds are free to get into, but again, pay attention to those ongoing costs because that's ultimately where your costs are going to come from. So with Hargreaves Lansdown, remember you're going to have that 0.45% management fee, and then you can have any ongoing costs that you're looking at. And then also, unfortunately, they do charge per trade as well. And that's one of the downsides with Hargreaves Lansdown, unfortunately. There is a trading fee per stock. So that's an £11.95 trade. There is a sliding scale, so if you do trade more, it does get cheaper. But if you are going to be trading stocks and shares on this platform, I would recommend you save up a lot more money, because of course, if you're only buying a single share or a couple of shares for £100 and you get charged £11.95, you're going to have to make nearly 12% profit just to break even there. So probably not the best place to trade low value stocks, so save up a lot for that one. But other than that, it's not too bad. Do bear in mind here as well, stamp duty will apply to UK stocks. They don't absorb this one, and there are FX fees to pay as well. So it can get costly if you are looking at individual stocks. So clearly on a personal note, I need to have a look at my charges and work out where I might be best investing my money. So let's look back again. A £20,000 investment in a stocks and shares ISA with Hargreaves Lansdown is going to cost us 0.45% every year on top of any trades we make at £11.95 per trade. And then of course any ongoing fees we might have from the different funds we're invested in. Can get a little bit pricey. Okay, so what do we make of all this? Let's wrap things up and have a bit of a summary. Overall, the biggest takeaway I would have for you if you've got this far is that fees matter. And they're probably the single most important factor taking into consideration, other than making sure that firstly you send your money to a safe investor and a safe broker. But ultimately, if they are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority here in the UK, making sure you're protected and you will be protected up to that £85,000 mark, then fees after that are probably the most important thing to consider. Sure, it's nice having a mobile phone app and a flashy user interface, but the most important thing really in 20 or 30 years time is going to be how big your investment has grown, regardless of how flashy the marketing looks for a company. Fees and charges add up over the years, and although we're only talking about 0. fees and 0.45, these fees significantly add up over time and eat into your investment. So once you're lucky enough and maybe you've built up hundreds of thousands of pounds, these fees end up costing you thousands and tens of thousands in lost opportunity costs. So just be aware of that. So if I've not made that clear yet, for the average investor, yes, you try and keep your costs as low as possible. That would be the best advice I could ever give anyone. Another thing I'd say is this space is being disrupted massively, which is great. We've never seen it be cheaper and easier to invest in stocks ever before, but it also means it's potentially more risky for people who don't really know what they're doing. But overall, it's a really positive thing. Stockbroking, investing, and putting your money into the stock market used to be extremely complicated, having to call different people up, trying to work out if your money is safe, paying extremely high charges. But now we're in a place where we can literally pick up our mobile phone and invest in companies completely for free. So firstly, to say that disruption is fantastic and ultimately makes investing for me and you a lot cheaper. So who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, so you've stayed right to the end and you want to know what is the best platform. Well, best, of course, is a subjective word, and that depends on where you are in life. However, let's say you're the average investor, you've just started out in stocks and shares ISA world, you're relatively young, you're looking for long-term growth, then I think I've got 2 strong recommendations for you here. As you would have seen earlier, the absolute cheapest platform to invest in a stocks and shares ISA long-term so far is Freetrade. That £3 a month account fee really is a godsend, and ultimately, and as your investment grows, knowing that you're only paying £3 a month for the privilege of having that amazing growth is really, really powerful. Also, I like the fact they've got a very easy to use and simple to navigate application, and also a wide choice of stocks, shares and funds, so you can choose whatever's right for you and doing all your own research. So Freetrade definitely gets a huge thumbs up from me. However, let me give a huge commendation to Vanguard. This is a rock solid company that's been going steadfast for tens and tens of years, and ultimately I can see them driving their costs even lower and lower. And ultimately investing in index funds and low cost trackers that Vanguard offer has been a proven way to beat the market for the vast majority of people over the long term. And active fund managers have let themselves down over and over again. So really Vanguard is a great choice for beginners. You can set and forget, not constantly check on your mobile app to see how your investments are doing, and know that your money's in a trusted platform as well is really, really important. But of course, if you've got a bit of an itch and you do want to play around with individual stocks, then Freetrade's probably the best place to go for you right now. So if you do want to get started with Freetrade, I do have a link in the description below, and if you were going to open an account anyway, go through that link. We'll both get a free share up to £200, which would be fantastic, and I'd really appreciate it to support a channel like mine. I'm far from being sponsored or anything like that, so if you were going to open an account anyway, feel free to go through that link. Otherwise, good luck, and let me know how you get on with your stocks and shares ISA. Please let me know below if this video's changed your mind and gave you that confidence to open up a stocks and shares ISA. Genuinely, it's my goal that almost every person in the UK can open up a stocks and shares ISA, and even if it's a very small amount of money, that they can grow that 10, 20, 30 years time to have a nice nest egg to work with their pension. Let me know any more comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Any feedback at all, drop me a like if you found the video useful. Please subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.